have an interest in learning, and we'll send it to you. We'll send you the link after the session today. That way you can share it and rewatch it if you want to see it again. We will have a question and answer session at the end. It is difficult to have everyone off of mute because of dogs barking and background noise and things like that. But there is a chat feature. If you're comfortable and familiar with Zoom, there is a chat feature. If you're on a desktop, at least, it's on the bottom. It says chat. If you want, at any time, you can type in any questions or comments, and we'll make sure that we respond to that. But we will unmute everyone at the end, and you will have an opportunity to answer or to ask any questions, and we'll make sure we get those answered. So I am going to share my screen, and we're going to talk a little bit about PPH before, Mindy and Brian get started. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. All right, you figured I'd be an expert by now with Zoom, but so let's see, put it in slideshow. Here we go. So again, this topic is preparing your home to sell in a seller's market. Brian and Mindy are from Keller Williams. They're seniors home specialists, and they'll tell you a little bit more about what their designation means when they give their presentation. PPH, so who are we? We are the Philadelphia Protestant Home, also known as PPH. We're located in Northeast Philadelphia. We are over 130 years old, if you can believe it. So our history goes back to, at the time, Protestant clergy looking for a solution for their aging parishioners. So fast forward 130 years later, we are not affiliated with any certain religion, even though we still have the Protestant in our name. We have many different religions here. We have many different backgrounds. We are not for profit community, and we offer several types of living here. We have independent living for those that are 62 years of age or older. And as a community that has different options, the ideal situation is you move in while you're independent, and as you age, if and when you need care, it's all right here. Through our personal care, which is like assisted living, memory care for those that have memory impairment, and skilled nursing care. So skilled nursing care is for short-term rehabilitative stays or long-term care. So if you don't move in to our independent living, you could also move directly into our personal care or a loved one or our nursing care. And as a not-for-profit community, we have a mission statement, which is that we provide a caring senior living community that affords its residents the opportunity to achieve their highest quality of life. Our independent living, we have 253 apartments in 3 different buildings, and we have 11 different floor plans, ranging from studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, some with patios and balconies. We're on about 13 acres, so it's a nice little park-like atmosphere right in the middle of a residential neighborhood. So you may wonder, if you're not familiar with this kind of living, or maybe you don't know anyone that lives in a community, so why do people make a move to a community like PPH? These are the top 3 reasons. I've been doing this for over 25 years, and in my 25 years, these are the top 3 reasons that people give for moving to a community. And it could be in any order, depending on the person. Social. A lot of times people, you live in the same house for 30, 40, 50 years. Many of your neighbors have moved away, moved on, and you tend to not be as social as you'd like to be or want to be. Maybe you're no longer driving, or it's difficult to drive and get out. This past year, during the pandemic and quarantine, and a lot of people have felt isolated. More so than ever, people in a community like PPH are thankful to be here because they don't have that same isolation. They have a community of people here. No worry of upkeep of a home. That is big. New roofs, snow removal, leaf removal, repairs. That is often stressful for people. And you reach a time in your life when, and I'm very young for it, I think I've reached it after enough repairs, but you reach a time when you just don't want to have to worry about that anymore. And then peace of mind. People wonder what will happen if and when I need care, if I can't live independently anymore, maybe I don't feel safe where I am. A community like PPH does help you give some peace of mind for that. So we have many different amenities. It's not just a place to live. We have amenities and services. We have dining venues. We have entertainment venues. We have a bank on site. We have a like a small business services office on site if you need stamps or to mail a package. We have a full fitness and wellness program with a heated indoor swimming pool, cardio equipment, a full staff there, aerobic classes. We've done a lot of outdoor classes as the weather's turned nicer. And something pretty unique, we have a 2-lane bowling alley in our fitness area. Some of the services I mentioned, housekeeping and laundry services. We also have scheduled transportation. Maybe you do drive, but you don't want to drive to the local stores. So we have that, that's included, and also local physicians' offices. Maintenance is included, groundskeeping, 24-hour security. We are a gated community, and fire detection. And then another big factor in the peace of mind is that there's care when you need it. So when and if you need care, it's here. Whether that's short term, maybe you're just recuperating from an illness, a surgery, or it's long term where you can no longer care for yourself and you need that longer term care. And that's everything that I have. And as I mentioned earlier, we are open to in-person tours. So we'd be happy to have you here to visit our community. When you are ready, we can certainly make arrangements for that. And I'll be in touch with all of you after this presentation. So I'm going to stop my share, and it is my pleasure to introduce Brian and Mindy of Keller Williams, and they have a really informative program for you today. And I will mute myself.
Thank you so much, Shannon, and thanks to PPH today for inviting us here. And thank all of you for coming out today, well, staying home and coming out today. And we'll be as informative as possible, and we'll show you some really cool stuff. And we'll also do question and answer at the end. So I'm Brian Quigley, and Mindy Haggerty is my partner. And we're going to start my screen share now. Let's go to, that's a cool thing that we're going to see in a little bit. But we'll cover that up. Everybody seeing what I'm doing here now? You all can see my screen? Okay, good.
I can see your screen now.
So let's talk about what a senior real estate specialist is and what that designation does for us. So Mindy and I joined forces about 2 years ago and started Seniors Home Specialist, a division of Keller Williams. So we're at Keller Williams Bluebell, but we cover Philadelphia, Montgomery, Bucks County, and even further. We're more centric to seniors rather than a geography. So we go where the seniors are to sell their homes. And Senior Real Estate Specialist is recognized by the National Association of Realtors. It's an accredited class to obtain a broker's license. It also provides workshops. We do seminars, monthly newsletters. We talk about Medicare and Medicaid, VA benefits, long-term care insurance, things that you're working with that not only have to do with real estate, but that help you pay for care or help you get to a beautiful place like PPH. It also enhances our skill set for power of attorney, for guardianship, and sometimes we do executrix sales too. Power of attorney can help you out a lot if you have an adult child who wants to take over for you. I'm a power of attorney for my mother and for my uncle, so I help them, in a lot of things in addition to real estate. We also have elder care attorneys that we work with and help them and their clients in terms of selling their home or getting their home ready. The other thing it does is encourage the valued, trusted resources, relationships, and partnerships, much like today's partnership with PPH to come on to this seminar and just help educate and teach about who we are and what we do, and hopefully answer your questions and help you through this process. Looks like we have another person waiting here. I'm just going to admit one more person. Welcome to whoever that was. I just admitted another person to the group. So here's a question, and if we were in person, I would have all of you raise your hands and let us know, how long you've been in a home. It's one of our favorite questions because it really kind of gets to the point. You've probably been in your home for 10 years plus, 15 years, 20 years, or 30 years. And that's really the crux of what we do and how we do it. It's not something, if you've lived in your house 30, 40 years, it's not like you're selling something 7 years or 5 years and are familiar with the process. So before we go into that, let's just jump back for 1 second, because in this 10-year and 15-year and 20-year and 30-year, there comes the question of like, why would we do just seniors? Why are we senior real estate specialists? And I'll start with my story and then transition over to Mindy. So my uncle, about 7 years ago, 72 years old, lived in the same house for 72 years old because he was born there. It was my grandparents' house. And when I helped him transition and sell and move into an apartment, I realized how much help he needed. Decluttering, getting the house ready, you know, having never really bought or sold a house. He bought it from my grandparents. And I realized how much help he needed. He since has moved into Cathedral Village. Unfortunately, 4 years ago, he was stricken with West Nile virus and Guillain-Barré syndrome. And again, that was another layer of what seniors need. And that helped Mindy and I realize that we have to transition and become even more of a source of the source to help seniors. And I'll turn it over to Mindy for a second to tell her story as well.
So yeah, my story is a little different. My very first client when I became a real estate agent was a woman in her 80s, and she had already downsized. Actually, she had moved to a 55 plus, but she did not like it there at all. She said she's way too young to be there. So, you know, we started the process of looking for a home for her. We became fast friends. It became clear that she wanted to be closer to her daughter. And even though she had a daughter, she needed a lot of help with the packing process and the moving process. And anyway, we did become fast friends. And that was my realization is, you know, even though she had a daughter of her own, she really needed a lot of, you know, help. And I really, really enjoyed her company, and we're still friends to this day. So when I met Brian and he already had, you know, this focus, I said, I'm definitely on board. You know, really love this. It's a little slower paced. It's just, it's very fulfilling. So that's how I got into it. Really enjoy it.
And Mindy brings up a good point too, you know, with helping folks in that transition. The first question is, what do I do with all this stuff? Like, how do I manage my home? And I know part of the series here, you're going to hear from senior transitions, and they're going to help you talk about that number one question, or one of the top 5 at least. What do I do with all my stuff? So that's something that you'll see later in this series as well. So what type of market are we in today? And Shannon had mentioned in the opening remarks that we're in the craziest, hottest sellers market of all time. And that's a true statement. And sometimes when we tell these stories, and we're going to tell you a story today about a home that we sold pretty close to PPH, the zip code 19154. And as I tell you this story about a seller's market, I almost don't believe what I'm saying, but we can prove it. So Mindy and I listed a house, Teasdale Avenue, 19154. And it was a difficult home. It had been, you know, left to disrepair. The gentleman had passed away a few years back, and the nephews, 4 nephews, also owned this house with him, and they owned another house. And unfortunately, the home fell into disrepair. It was unfortunately broken into, and a lot of the pipes were stripped away. So we got in and we helped the family, and we got the house cleaned up and got the contents taken away and fixed the plumbing issues. And we listed this house at $150,000, thinking that, well, we'll create a firestorm and there'll be a lot of interest and we'll get it sold quickly, and someone will move in and renovate it and make it a home of their own. And there's a big shift in a lot of Philadelphia areas, some cultural diversity, and a lot of buyers really wanting certain areas and willing to pay for it. Believe it or not, we sold this house for $250,000 cash in 3 days. And there were 120 scheduled showings. 67 of those showings happened in 3 days because it's a show and go. So if anybody lives near Teasdale, there's 119 people out there that want to buy your house. So let us know during the question and answers if you live anywhere near there. So that just shows you the sort of fever that's out there for buying houses. And that's an extreme story. Not all stories are like that, but you'll hear stories of 15,000 and 10,000 and 25,000 over asking. And I'll go to Mindy again for a second, because we do buyers in this market. We help buyers find their properties. And I'll let Mindy tell some stories here about some buyers and what's happening in that side of the market?
Yeah, we don't have many buyers, but sometimes there's an offspring of a child of a senior that we help. So we do have a few buyers. And to be perfectly honest, I tell them when, okay, you want to buy a house, you have this great pre-approval, the mortgage rates are so low, everyone wants to buy a home. But I say this is not for the faint of heart. Like, you have to get a tough skin, because you find a house, or you think you found the house. Well, so did 18 other people, and they put an offer in. And so I tell them to go as high as they can. And usually it's $35,000 over. They're waiving inspections, or they're doing inspections for informational purposes only. They're doing everything possible to win houses. And then we lose that house to someone who's buying it for cash, or someone who has a better offer or better terms. And this happens over and over and over until finally we get lucky and we find one. So this is what we're seeing. And I know, Brian had a offer put in last week, same thing, $25,000 over. They were the top bid. And then right at the last minute, someone came in with cash. So it appears to us that maybe, children are borrowing from their parents' 401ks, maybe just to get the cash, because obviously, cash sales a lot easier. So that's what's happening for the buyers. So a lot of them, they're sticking with it because the interest rates are so amazing, but it's tough.
And that's a good point. So there's the two other factors here of inventory, and there's the factor of the interest rates. So inventory is at an all-time low because people are sort of staying put, but we're seeing that loosen up a little bit. And obviously we are our seniors sellers, so that is about 80% of our business. If you look at Philadelphia, and I ran this report this morning, of a possible 700,000 homes that could sell, meaning like a single family residence or a condo or a townhouse or a row home, there's only 3,000 for sale, and that's in all of Philadelphia. So that gives you an idea. If you only have 3,000 homes for sale, but you could possibly have 700,000 available, not at one time, of course, you definitely have more than 3,000 buyers out there. And in some neighborhoods, hot neighborhoods, you really have a lot of buyers where it is 100 or 50 or 30 buyers looking at one home. And the interest rates that Mindy mentioned are about 3%. So think about it in our time frame and your time frame. You all have probably seen interest rates of 18% and 15%. Historical averages, meaning a 10-year period, a 15-year period, 6 to 9%. So 3% is a serious gift, which helps push your prices up and helps those buyers afford a better payment, which again pushes prices up. So getting your home ready for sale, and what are the things that you could do, and what are the things that drive the sale of the home? Well, we talked about that location, condition, and price, and that's still in effect. It's where's the house located, what's the condition, and ultimately what's the pricing strategy. But we're kind of on steroids there. Like, you can have some problems in location, you can have some problems in condition, and still get a great price. What are the things, the do's and the don'ts? So let's just take a look for 1 second at some do's and don'ts here. We'll share another screen. So this is what's called the Bright MLS. And this is where we list your home after you've gotten it ready and decluttered and maybe did some work, but maybe not. And we want to show you one of our most recent sales in Glenside. And this is exactly what a buyer would see. And this is exactly what you would see when you list your home. We listed this home for $349,900. And I'm going to scroll down. And this home was under contract in 3 days. That's this area here. Everybody's seeing this, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. So in 3 days, this home had 21 showings in 3 days. We could have had 50. This was an estate sale, and the folks wanted to sell it for the highest amount of money in the shortest amount of time with the least amount of work. Beautiful home right on Keswick Square. But I want you to check out this green carpet here, carpet here and here. And our favorite, because everybody always says, what should we do about wallpaper? Well, in this case, we did nothing about wallpaper. You see some here, you see some in the kitchen, and Mindy's favorite is this bathroom here with foil paper on the ceiling. Isn't that
Love
awesome?
it. I love this.
So this house listed for $349.9, and in 3 days time with 21 or 25 showings, we ended up selling this for $390,000, and it settles in about a month. The folks who bought it were young. They're going to renovate this for their own home and raise a family. They love the school district. They had the cash, probably from a 401k. They are going to get a mortgage, but they did what's called a cash mortgage waiver. So that means they would pay cash for this house or get a mortgage. They did secure a mortgage. They probably secured some renovation money as well. And they're going to buy this house. And they won, what was it, 5 or 6 offers, Mindy?
Yeah, offers just right behind them. So, and they won. It was non-contingent on a home inspection, so no home inspection. And yeah, and without a mortgage, you know, with that being waived, it was just the best terms for these sellers. So it's great. And as far as like we were talking about what to do and what not to do, even the family had already taken everything that was sentimental to them or important to them. They'd already taken it out. And Brian and I waited because a lot of times the buyer will come in and just take the home with the contents in it, which makes it the easiest for the seller. In this case, they're going to renovate right away as soon as we close. So, you know, I went ahead and scheduled a young person to come in and take the contents out, and they'll donate those. So the sellers who are the children of these, deceased parents don't have to do anything. They don't have to lift a finger. They'll sign a deed package in a couple of weeks, and then they'll just wait for the money to get wired to them. So really, really easy.
Well, and how that translates to a senior living in the home is that if you wish to move into PPH first and leave your house empty, again, helping declutter, helping professionally clean, don't do a thing about the wallpaper. Maybe you replace carpets, maybe you paint, and that's something on a case-by-case study. But if you're able to leave the home, move to PPH, it'll streamline the process, just like you saw with Glenside there, and just like with Teasdale, and actually more like 50-50. 50% of our listings now leave the home, move to the community, and because things are happening so quickly, and by quickly I mean about 35, 45 days with a mortgage, 10, 15 days with cash. But don't let that scare you. Don't think you're under the gun. As a seller, you really have the control of when you want to list the house, how you want to prepare it, when you want to move. If you want it to stay, we're going to show you some cool things that you can stay and take some of the pressure off of showing the home. But let's touch on what's a comparative market analysis. What I just showed you in that screen share with the Bright MLS is where we get all of our data to show you in your neighborhood what has sold and what condition, for how much, and how quickly. So those are things that we prepare as reports and bring to your home. And the HGTV shows, well, that helps a lot because like in the case of what we just showed you in Glenside, those folks are going to make that an HGTV home once they're finished with it. And what a beautiful open palette for them. Once it's cleaned and kind of remodeled, they're going to restore it to its original and then bring it forward with kitchens and baths and remodeling. So let's talk a little bit about financing, and then we'll talk about marketing. So in the financing piece, as a seller, you don't really have to finance, you're selling. But if you wanted to do carpet or you wanted to do painting or you needed professional cleaning or landscaping, some things that maybe will enhance that curb appeal or get you ready for pictures and for showings, you could do a home equity line of credit. And again, those rates are very low too, maybe anywhere from 4, 5, 6%, really short period of time of borrowing the money to do some things to the home. But again, you're not going to have to do a whole lot, not in this market. And you want that home equity line of credit in place before you list the home for sale, because you're going to pay it off sooner than a year. And you might have to pay a prepayment penalty of $250 to $500, but you get to use maybe 5, 6, 7, 10,000 at a very cheap rate. And Mindy and I just sold a house in West Mount Airy, I think it was, or East Mount Airy, where the gentleman borrowed $12,000. We listed the house. He did cleaning and painting. He moved out, and we sold the house in 5 days. Again, another 30, 40, 50 showings. We listed it at $240 I believe was that what it was, Mindy?
Mhm.
240.
Yeah, 239. Yeah.
And he got about 275,000. So again, minus that 12,000 and minus our commissions, he still did better on the walkaway net profit than he would have if he did any other way of selling, like a help you sell or a cash out or any of those things. And we'll talk about those in a minute too.
Yeah, and I was just want to say, in that case, it also had a really old wiring, a really old electric system. So we did have that seller fix that. And again, it was a meeting between myself, Brian, and the seller as to what he wanted to do. And he really wanted to do that. It was important to him. So this is how we went about it. The house would have sold either way. But I think this, it was helpful definitely with that old electric system to get that fixed. But yeah.
And that proves the point of that you as the seller, the homeowner, are in control. An agent should never tell you what to do. They should guide you what to do. But if you felt strongly about safety issues or something that you wanted to do, for the buyer, you can't go wrong. Like this gentleman did not go wrong at all. He did great things to the house. He owned it for a very long time, and the buyers are super appreciative. And he kind of, if nothing else, gave them a baseline to work from to enhance the electrical system more. And he painted the entire house just a nice neutral color. They're going to come in and do their thing with renovations and things like that. So with buyers, they do conventional VA, FHA loans. They can do renovation loans. And again, 3% money is the cheapest, it's ever been. And it's holding steady for quite some time now. Cost of selling a home. And this is an important one. What does it take to sell your home and how much? So most of this is negotiable. Commissions to a real estate agent are negotiable. We talk about a range of 5 to 6%. That can be negotiated. Transfer taxes are set in terms of a cost. In Philadelphia, it's 4.125% transfer tax of the sale price. However, where that becomes negotiable is when you have an agent who is experienced like Mindy and myself and looking out for your best interest as a senior, we might be able to negotiate the buyer paying your transfer tax. And in the last 2 sales in Philadelphia, we were successful with that. The East Mount Airy, we were able to have them pay $2,000 towards transfer. On that Teesdale one that I talked about for $255 or $250, they paid the full transfer tax. So they paid 2% more, which would have been the seller side. And that's about a $6,700 amount of money that goes to the seller. So that's a good thing in this market. When it turns to a buyer's market, that might not be the case, but for now, that's where we are. Use an occupancy permit. With Philadelphia, it's an L&I. It's not really a permit. It's an affidavit that you sign, just saying that the home is fine. In the counties like Montgomery County or Bucks County, you actually have a permit, a use and occupancy permit, and they may come out and take a look at the house and just make sure things are safe and might require some hand railings or painting or things like that, depending on the township. And then you get a refund of your real estate taxes paid forward, prorated at settlement. And for some reason, let's see. Oh, my computer froze up on me. There we go. Sorry about that. So marketing. Now we're going to get back into looking at some cool stuff. So we talked about the Bright MLS service and showed you that marketing. We take care of the photography. We pay for that. And it's a professional, as you saw in those photos. You have the internet home sites. There's about 60 or so. If you're familiar with Realtor and Trulia and Homes and Zillow, those are where all those photos go to and show your home in its best light and talk about the price and talk about the special features of the home. When we talk about open houses, in COVID, it's been tough, and we don't necessarily even recommend open houses because it's such a seller's market. But what we can recommend is this Matterport 3D virtual tour. And the cool thing about that is, hang on just one second, that it is what it sounds like it is.
Mm-hmm.
If I can find it.
So when Brian gets this is an amazing tool. We found a photographer who does this walkthrough. It's like real life. So it's not, sometimes you'll see the videos where someone took it with their phone or they just enhanced the pictures and there's some music behind it. But this is actually, you walk through with your mouse or you can click on your computer screen and it feels like you're there. So you get a really good, well, here it comes. You get a really good sense of the house itself. And this kind of, if you are still living in your home during showings, this kind of helps because we can not have as many people come through because they can really tour the home this way. Or if they saw your home once, they can go home and see it again and again and again. Whereas most buyers are seeing a house for 15 minutes and that's it. So this is a house in Montgomery County where the woman, she actually moved to Georgia and this house, she was alone. So she was moving again near her child in Georgia. We did 2 days of showings and she called me and said, Mindy, I'm done. I can't deal with this anymore. I can't go out of my house all day long. I have nowhere to go. So, but in 2 days, that was perfect enough time to get multiple offers and find a buyer and get over ask. And then we helped her locate, there she is up there in the corner and then she's gone. And we did help her find movers and packers and got her to Georgia and she just left like a few days before settlement. We signed the papers and she got a big wire in her bank account. So, but this is the house. And again, we didn't do anything to this home, as far as, paint or updating or anything.
This was like in perfect shape and condition to sell right away. And what's cool about this is there's all these other features. So there's a measurement tool that you could click on and measure the size of the case pieces and the beds. And if you were in the living room or dining room, you can measure those. There's the 3D floor selector. There's a floor plan. And there was that dollhouse view that we initially saw. So that gives you the entire home as a dollhouse. You can drop to floor plan and look at the actual floor plans of each. You could drop into the basement if you wanted to and take a look at that.
This is great too, because the buyers could see the electric system, they could see the furnace, you could actually see the sticker on the furnace. And I wanted to mention in this case too, once we had secured the buyer, the seller was able to negotiate some of the furniture with the buyer because they would just go on and she would say, hey, I'm not going to take the dining room. Would you want it? And they were able to negotiate a price on some of the furniture that she wasn't taking to Georgia with her, which was really great too.
And this helps cut down, as Mindy said, on showings. You could promote this for 3 or 4 days and then open the house for 2-3 days for the really serious buyers and then have the home sold under contract in less than a week. And that's exactly what happened here. And that's exactly what's been happening. So just some really cool tools. And again, to Mindy's point, the buyer who ends up buying this home can use this in the marketing to come back and even measure online, measure for curtains, measure for carpet, like look at the room size and figure out how much paint even has to be used on it.
Mm-hmm. I think our seller even used it when she got where she was going because she couldn't remember how she had her furniture or her curio cabinet. So she just went on and said, oh, that's how I had it arranged. And she used it that way. And Brian, I would pay for this if we felt, if you were staying in your home, we felt this is something that would help, with your situation.
And it's a little bit more expensive. However, it cuts down on time and it can get you a higher price. So normal photography is like $200 or so for us to have just photos done, maybe panoramic views of outside, or even in some cases a drone if the property has acreage. But the 3D Matterport, it depends. Like that home there, I think was $400. Again, not terribly expensive, but it's something that we're more than happy to pay for the marketing of to help you not have to put up with 50 people coming through your house if you haven't moved to PPH first. So let's talk about contracts and paperwork, and this can be boring, so we'll just touch on it in terms of what it is, and this is more like at the kitchen table and talking about how we do things. But the cool thing about today's format, like in Zoom, is that we could do DocuSign and Zoom at the same time. So if you actually wanted us to do this remotely, we could. And we could do a listing agreement that way. We can DocuSign, meaning we share the documents with you and you sign. If you can email, you can DocuSign. And if you can Zoom, we can talk you through it, or we can sit at the kitchen table, socially distance and mask and take care of that as well. So you do have to do a seller's disclosure. We would help you with that. And that just talks about all the things you know about your home. And it's really just material defects, if there are any, or things that you did to the home to enhance it. If you did do a kitchen, or you did do the bathrooms, or you did paint, or you had plumbing done, or you did a sewer lateral to the street, any of those things, when the roof was put on, the heating systems, the electrical systems, it helps the buyer understand your home. And the more detailed you are there, the maybe they'll do less of an inspection, or they'll do inspections for informational purposes only. Agreements of sale, same thing. We can do that over the phone. We can do it by Zoom. We can send it to you by DocuSign, or we can come out and see you with that. An agreement of sale, you might have several of those and get into what's called a bidding war. And in that case, a good agent should not disclose those agreements, but talk to all of them through their agents and say, make your final and best, make your highest offer, because we have several offers and we never disclose what those offers are. But with your permission, we may say, well, they're over asking, so make your final and best. And that's when that bidding war starts. And that's when you get to above your asking price. Inspections and replies, if they do an inspection, they might come back with material defects that you negotiate out. Again, in this seller's market, a lot of buyers are saying, I'll take care of the first $2,000 or $5,000 worth of problems, or they may not inspect at all. We don't necessarily recommend that, but that's up to the buyer. Some sellers do a pre-sale inspection just to get ahead of that curve and see if there's anything wrong with the home that they've overlooked. And home inspections generally cost $400 to $600. Appraisals, that's the bank does that on a mortgage to see if the home is worth the price that's going to be paid. Now, interestingly enough, and Mindy can comment on this too, we've had appraisals waived. So if you want to comment on that, Mindy.
Yeah, well, so because the offers are coming in so over ask, we know that there might be a problem with the bank appraising it. So we kind of address that right away. So we kind of say to the agent and the buyer, this is great, this is a wonderful offer, but what will you do if this doesn't appraise? So we kind of go into it preemptive instead of waiting for that to happen. Because if the appraisal came and we hadn't addressed it, then it's in the buyer's hands. Then the buyer says, hey, this didn't appraise. What are you going to do about it? So we approach it ahead of time, and we kind of just let, are you willing to come out of pocket? And most times the buyer wants the home so badly that they will say, okay, we'll come out of pocket if it doesn't appraise up to 5,000 or whatever it is. Or sometimes they just waive it completely. Obviously the bank still has to do it, but they have the cash, and we'll have that information from a buyer's financial information form that they fill out. So we know that they have the cash to bring to the table. So we try to cover you. And if you have an agent, you should ask them to cover you where the appraisal is concerned.
Absolutely. And to Mindy's point, again, it's negotiable, meaning let's say you sold the house for 10 more thousand than the list price. And you thought, well, what if it doesn't appraise? You can say, we'll split it 5,000. Sometimes the buyer says, I'll cover the first 5,000, or I'll cover the entire 10,000. And Mindy and I have had that recently as well. So the last thing, settlement, that's like Christmas Day, right? And New Year's and your birthday all wrapped up together, because you want to go to PPH and you've sold your house and you're going to settlement. But in COVID, you don't have to go to settlement. So everything's changed. We don't go to settlement. The only person who goes to settlement is the buyer and sometimes the lender. Everything's being done remotely. And again, by DocuSign and by what's called a deed packet, you can instruct us or your agent to go to settlement for you. You see everything up front 3 days ahead of time. You see what your net will be, you see what the charges will be, and you approve that, so you know what net proceeds you're getting wired to your account. And all this is done very securely and very safely. With wires, you talk directly to the bank via the phone. We don't do it by email, or we don't do it by text. We make sure we all know who we're talking to so that the money ends up where it's supposed to be. but you can settle and be at PPH in your apartment and just look on your computer and boom, the money's in your account. So that's kind of a blessing, in disguise with COVID, is that we've really streamlined practices and made it easier for sellers. And again, that's something that a senior real estate specialist will help you with. And my computer keeps freezing up on me, but we've only got one more slide to go to. Let me try this. This technology, it's great when it works, right? So the last slide is, how do you choose a realtor? And maybe this will come up in a second or not, maybe it won't. But we say choose a realtor like the way you choose a doctor. You go to your doctor and your doctor tells you, what you need and what's going to be good for you and gives you kind of the overview. Well, that's what a good real estate agent does too, and helps you make decisions, good decisions for yourself, for your financial health, and for what it will take to get you to PPH. We also say, avoid that we buy houses circumstance, which, has been out there, and they're suffering in this market of low inventory too, because they're trying to buy houses for cash and renovate them and resell them. But in the instance of both Teasdale and East Mount Airy and the Glenside home that we showed you, had they sold it to a flipper or a We Buy Houses, they would have left $50,000 to $60,000 to $70,000 on the table. We were able to show this to everyone who would want it and able to sell it in bidding wars. And that's really the make an educated decision piece, which works, in this market, especially works for you. So that is the end of our presentation, even though I can't advance that slide. But let me go to stop sharing and put us all back in the same room. And if you like, we can open this up to questions now, because that was a ton of information that we gave you. We're open for questions and see what's on your mind. We're back, right? You can see me?
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
I am unmuted. Everyone, let's see. I'm trying to unmute everyone. Ask all to unmute. Okay. I've asked everyone to unmute. Any questions? There weren't any questions in the chat, and thank you so much, Brian and Mindy. Even though we just talked yesterday about all of this, I think I still learned more. I didn't realize how high the interest rates had gotten at one point and what the historical averages are. So it makes perfect sense that it's such a hot market with the combination of low inventory and low interest rates. And it's amazing, these cash offers that you're getting. I would imagine that's in a typical market, that's pretty rare, I would think, for the average home.
Definitely. Yeah. For something, $200,000, $300,000 to get a cash offer is really phenomenal. And it's just kind of a perfect storm. So you're just telling people, if you're on the fence about selling, it really is a perfect storm. COVID kind of made people more home centric, I think. So buyers, they want a home, or the home that they're in is too small, or they're living with parents, all kinds of situations where, again, people really want a home. So all the things are there.
Right. And I would think with the pandemic, many people working from home, maybe long-term, I think this has changed the way some businesses will be working in the future, that maybe, like you said, upsizing their home to accommodate a home office or something like that. But I'm seeing it in my local neighborhood, and I'm sure everyone else is seeing it as well. So does anyone, there are some people on mute. Does anyone have any questions while we have Mindy and Brian here, or any questions about PPH in general? You can either speak up if you're unmuted or write it in the chat. I don't hear anyone. So that means
I have a
that
question. I do have a question. So my question for all of you, tell me what you thought about that Matterport 3D, that you can walk through a home. Is that something that anyone has seen before? What's your thoughts on that?
I thought that was a great presentation,
Thank you.
especially the 3D. My question was, Shannon, might be off the mark here for this presentation, but at which point would the prospective home seller looking to move to PPH, move into PPH while the home is being sold? Like, the apartment arrangement deal.
That's a great, yeah, that's a great question, Mary. We do have programs here, even pre-pandemic, where someone, because it is stressful and trying to figure out the timing. So once we establish, I would say to start looking as soon as possible, even if you're a little while away from moving in. But once we have an apartment for you, we'll have a date for you as far as when it will be ready on our end. And it is actually nice to move in before your home is sold. And as Brian and Mindy said, you don't have to be there. And sometimes it's a lot easier because you can have multiple showings. And we do have a program here financially where we can delay your entry fee payment. So we have options here where you wouldn't have to worry about that entry fee until your home has sold and you have that liquid asset on hand to be able to pay that.
Well, my advantage is I have several friends who live at PPH, and I'm also a member of the fitness club, which I hope opens soon.
I know, that's great. I'm glad to hear it. We are.
So that's another way of that. In terms of marketing strategies, I'm sure that's not the key point, but the fitness center really is a draw for PPH for future
Mary,
residents.
I couldn't agree more. So for people that may not know, we have a beautiful fitness and wellness, both facilities and program. And pre-pandemic, we were open to the public, the neighborhood. We have a program with Silver and Fit and Silver Sneakers. So we did have many people from the outside community use the fitness center. And honestly, it was a great tool for us as far as people getting to know the community and eventually moving in. And the advantage is you make friends and you become familiar with the community. We are hoping, gosh, my hope is the fall, but of course we have to do a wait and see. We've been safely and slowly reopening the community, and close to 100% of our independent living residents and other residents have been vaccinated. So, so we're feeling good about that. We just have to hold tight a little bit longer, and hopefully we'll be able to reopen soon.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you can admit for the fitness center those who have been fully vaccinated as a first step.
That will definitely be a consideration.
But I really enjoyed this presentation. It was very informative. I really welcome the link to see it again, because there's a lot of stuff you miss on the first go around.
Absolutely. This entire
dimensional tours. That's really fascinating.
Yeah, I think it goes beyond, like Mindy was saying, like I've seen prior, almost, like the video tour where you click on it on a real estate listing and it's, someone's cell phone and you get a little motion sick and you're seeing what they want you to see. Whereas this, you have the entire house, and even, dropping down to the basement and looking at that furnace and the wiring, and I think it's just amazing, that technology.
Yeah.
And it's getting better every day. Yeah. There's add-ons to the Matterport 3D technology that started, believe it or not, back in like 2011, but it was relegated to, it was expensive. So only like the Toll Brothers, $700,000, $800,000 and the $1 million properties, they were using it. But now we're down around $300-400. It'll end up being, just like regular photography, $200 soon. And you see a lot of competition in that. It's definitely the wave of the future. So is DocuSign. That's been around a long time, but it's easier. Look at what we're doing today, right? We're all in our own either home office or offices or homes, and we're communicating 10, 15, 20 people. We've had seminars with 50 people. This is going to get better too. Zoom is in its infancy. There's silver linings in everything, and the pandemic was horrible, and it's been a tough road. But we're going to get past it and things are going to open up. But now we've got all this residual awesome technology to work from. And what I love about it the most, because Mindy and I are passionate about seniors, it takes the pressure off of you guys. It gives you the option to show your house in a technologically advanced way through us, and maybe save yourself some, headache and heartache and time.
And as far as moving prior to or timing it, that's what's great about Shannon, is Brian will work together with Shannon. She'll tell us your date and we can coordinate all of that together, as a team. So it makes it really easy. It doesn't take us long. once you're ready and once you have your move-in date, it doesn't take us long to act. So, yeah.
And what's nice is that, at least for the foreseeable future, the buyer is truly in the driver's seat.
Mhm.
So you have the power.
Yeah, no, the seller.
And
Mindy, one question. What's the success rate in your experience and you and Brian's in potential buyers purchasing furniture and things in the house? Is that
I'd say in the past year, it's been really well. This
Okay.
is done really well.
Mhm.
Buyers, usually they're a first time home buyer. They don't have a lot. The senior typically wants to leave lawn equipment and things like that. And no one is saying, I don't want it. No one is saying that. So sometimes it's not always a huge purchase, but I think we've been really successful in it.
Okay.
I think so. Yeah.
absolutely.
We had farm animals that we had to find homes for. And the people who moved into the home, it was goats, 3 goats. And the people who bought that home, they kept the goats.
Oh, that's great. So you don't need a lawnmower.
Keep lawn care.
Yeah.
I think they got a lawnmower too. They got a lot out of that deal, but yeah.
That's great. Are there any other questions?
There was a question in the chat that someone had for contact information. So it's easy for you to contact us either through Shannon at PPH. I just popped up our phone number and our emails in the chat as well. That last slide that I couldn't get to because my computer froze had our phone numbers and our emails. And, we're no pressure. We're here to help educate. We're here to help have conversations and talk the process through. If you ultimately hired someone else, you're not going to hurt our feelings. Choosing a realtor is very personal. Our advice is to get a lot of information. We love being the third person. Oh, somebody's reverbing a little bit there, Libby. Okay, now we're better. We love being the third contact. Interview 2, 3, 4 realtors, and the things to look for are: do they have your best interest at heart? Do they understand what you're doing? Do they understand how to coordinate with PPH? Do they want to have 5 offers? Do they want, your best interest all the way through, not just financially, but do they offer Matterport? Are they making the process easy for you? And, are they willing to negotiate? Sometimes we do need to negotiate fees and things like that to help you out. That's what we're here for.
And I think we always forget to mention too that it's not, and Ms. Brian and I, we also have other team members, but then we also have a group of people behind us. So someone to help you downsize, who I think, you'll have this week or next week in your series, but people who will help you if there are repairs that need to be made. We have those people. You don't have to find them. We don't leave you in the lurch saying, okay, you need to get that electrical system replaced. We have those people. We've already vetted them. They're economical. They're trustworthy. They're just like us. They work for seniors. That's their focus. They're compassionate. People, movers, people who help you pack, people, whatever your dilemma is, whether it's farm animals, will help you, find someone who is trustworthy and like-minded. So it's not just the two of us.
Yeah, that's a great point. Mindy and Brian are part of the group that have, I don't know if that's me reverbing, that have a group of vendors and partners that, and PPH as well, we have some of the same people that we know and work with that can help you with whether it's downsizing, moving, repairs. So that way you're not, it's not opening the yellow pages anymore, but it's Googling, Googling someone and hoping they show up, and hoping that they're reputable. So they've already vetted these contractors and vendors. So it's just another value added. Any other questions? Thank you, Brian and Mindy. Thank you so much. I have everyone's email address, so I will be sending you a follow-up email. It will have Brian and Mindy's contact information, a link to their website, and it will also have a link to this presentation so you can rewatch it and share it. If you have anyone that you think might find an interest in this, whether it's a family member or a friend, feel free to share it as well. And I thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And, yeah, you're welcome. And we hope to see you at PPH soon. We are, as I said, we are scheduling in-person visits. We just can't have groups yet. So again, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day. I believe we have some nice warm sunshine today.
Yay.
Get out there and enjoy it.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Shannon. Thank you,
You're
everyone.
welcome. Thank
Thanks.
you. Have a great
Thank
day.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.